Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Rampant Red Devils. I am back with my Premier League analysis of Manchester United's home game against Brighton. With Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's side playing in the Europa League on Thursday, but for now it was back to Premier League action as the Red Devils took on Graham Potter's Brighton and Hove Albion side, who are hoping to desperately avoid relegation from the league. It should realistically be a 3 points in the bag for Ollie's tricky Red Devils, and hopefully we can secure second place following Leicester slipping up after losing to Man City, who went 17 points clear above Man United and Ollie. Let's see how the game went. So the team news, we had Pogba playing alongside Fred in midfield, Greenwood, Rashford back from injury on the wings, Bruno Fernandes in the 10, Cavani up top, the usual back four of Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Maguire and Shaw. But the most interesting part of the team selection was Dean Henderson starting with David De Gea, who was dropped to the bench. More on that. My thoughts and analysis on that decision will come later on in the video. But it was a very strong team that should, on paper, realistically dispatch Brighton. But Graham Potter's side, although despite being in the relegation zone, they are one of the more interesting sides at the Premier League as they play some very good football. Obviously, Danny Welbeck started for the Seagulls. I'm pretty sure he's going to score. And in the first half, he did. Mike Dean got in the way of Pogba's pass as it was going towards Fred. Brighton were able to get the ball out wide. Cross comes into the box. Henderson pulls off a really good save to deny Danny Welbeck with a diving header, with Lindelof having missed the ball to head the cross away. But Henderson's brilliant save was only parried back out to Welbeck, who was able to finish smartly, and Brighton had a shock lead at Old Trafford. It was what we deserved. We'd started poorly, and realistically, you think, oh, here we go again. We're going to lose to a bottom half table side, as this is what Man United like to do. We always seem to drop points against teams that we shouldn't really be dropping points to. But obviously, first half we tried to create chances, but Brighton's back four, especially Lewis Dunk, were very firm. Cavani, more on Cavani later, but he had a really terrible game overall. I mean, yeah, I know he's back from injury, but he's supposed to be one of the best strikers in the game. He should be having a better performance than he did overall. But hopefully, we'd get the introduction of the likes of Ahmad and Van der Beek to hopefully change the tide in the second half. Again, second half starts, no substitutions by Ollie, which makes you think, oh, are we actually going to lose this game? Second half, though, very much like our season, our second half performances have always been better than our first half performances. I don't understand why that is. I think it's because we're trying to get used to our game plan of trying to sit and counter. But the thing is, with Manchester United, we should be attacking teams from the off, not just going a goal down, getting to half time behind, and then put in a decent 45-minute performance in the second half. Football is played over 90 minutes. If your team doesn't perform well for the best 90 minutes, you're likely to come away with nothing rather than 3 points or a draw. But the second half we were far better than the first. Brighton were basically sat back and couldn't really do anything. Maguire had another superb game after a really solid 3 games for England on the international duty, and we got our equaliser. A mistake from Ben White in when Brighton were trying to keep possession led to Bruno Fernandes coming away with the ball. Joel Veltman slid in on a horrible challenge on him from behind as he dispatched the ball to Marcus Rashford, who finished confidently to level the scores, and the United players were incensed that Veltman did not receive a booking for the challenge he made on Fernandes just as he released the ball afterwards. I watched the challenge back, and I'm thinking to myself, how is that not a yellow card? If the referee had stopped the play and given a free kick, then Veltman probably would have gone into the referee's book. But the fact he didn't get a card, despite us scoring, is quite astounding to me, considering how horrible the challenge was. But from then on, you thought that we would get the win here, and sure enough we did. Donny van der Beek was introduced, and even though you might not think Van der Beek was involved for this second goal, he actually is. As what Van der Beek does is he runs into space and draws Ben White out towards him to make him to follow. So Ben White is taken out of the game because he's following Van der Beek's run. Shaw plays an excellent ball into the space that Van der Beek has created to give Bruno Fernandes time to be able to pick out the cross for Pogba, who tries to go for a volley but ends up miscuing his shot into the ground, and Mason Greenwood is able to just to get to the ball first with a diving header to divert it into the back of the net for 2-1. Greenwood is showing his Edinson Cavani technique, which he's learned, as it was very similar to Cavani's movement for his header against Southampton, the way he runs towards the ball and creates space and is able to get the diving header on. But interesting fact, as soon as Van der Beek comes on, we actually score a goal. It's because Van der Beek, although he doesn't get involved as much, his movement off the ball was key in allowing Shaw to make the pass to Fernandes, which then was able for Fernandes to get the ball into the box for Pogba, which then obviously led to his miscued shot for Greenwood to score. For me, Van der Beek, if Pogba goes, Van der Beek has to be a regular starter next season. Yes, hasn't looked great in some of the games, but it's not about goals and assists at times. Van der Beek is one of the most talented midfielders around. Yes, he might not have done much for United this season, but his movement off the ball for the second goal was so key. And I think we don't need to sign a Pogba replacement as such. Just get Van der Beek more games, because Van der Beek is a world-class midfielder. He needs to showcase it by getting a run of games. Benching him and giving him 20-minute cameos each week, when the fact that we've benched Van der Beek and given him barely enough starts to see the likes of Matic and Fred playing week out and consistently make mistakes is something that I will never forgive Ollie for, personally, because Van der Beek has played in a UEFA Champions League semi-final and a Nations League final. How on earth are you not picking one of the most talented midfielders in Europe, who was linked with Real Madrid and Liverpool a few seasons ago, leaving him on the bench to rot when you're giving players like Matic, who are no longer good enough, starts in the Premier League? It's crazy to me. But I feel that if Pogba does leave in the summer, then Van der Beek has to start next season, and we will see him hopefully be rewarded for his time and patience after a slow start to his Man United career. So obviously it was a nervous win, to say the least, but obviously Van der Beek came on and we scored a second goal. Bruno was suitable with the cross that led to Pogba getting the shot away. But again, Luke Shaw and Van der Beek were key towards the goal. Shaw's forward passing has massively improved, and for me, he should be the starting left back for England at the Euros over Ben Chilwell for sure. He's probably, in my opinion, Luke Shaw's been the best left back in the Premier League this season, without a doubt. Usually, when Shaw has been on form, he usually picks up an injury and gets injured. No, the signing of Alex Telles from Porto has really boosted Shaw's confidence, and the fact that he's got stronger at the back, he's making tackles, and he's making forward runs, and most of our goals have come from the left-hand side, either with Shaw crossing or getting the rare occasional goal, as he did in the derby. And the fact that he's played more games than Ben Chilwell has this season for Chelsea, occurs to me that he should be starting for England at the Euros. And in my personal opinion, whether or not you agree, he has been the best left back in the Premier League this season. If you don't agree with that, then we need to have a word, because for me, Shaw has been chipping in with goals, assists. He's become a better defender and a better attacker at the same time. But the thing I wanted to talk about was obviously the goalkeeper situation. Reports on Sunday had obviously stated that David De Gea had been dropped and Dean Henderson would start. For me, this is a significant move, as this indicates that Ollie is going to be sticking with Dean Henderson as the number one goalkeeper for Manchester United from next season. It's obviously a massive call, as David De Gea has been a loyal servant to United over the years. He has obviously won the Premier League title. He's kept us in so many games, made some very good saves down the years, and that season when we were playing really poorly, he kept us in games and won us points just because of his saves. He even turned down Real Madrid, where he missed out on winning 3 back-to-back Champions League titles, to stay with us when we were in a worse position than where we are now. Whilst I don't agree with all the trolls stating, with disregarding who should be the starting keeper, for me it was always a given and inevitable that Dean Henderson would come back from his loan at Sheffield United and become Man United's number one goalkeeper. You could argue that it should have happened earlier in the season, because obviously De Gea has made some mistakes that have led to goals conceded this season. And obviously Dean Henderson has proved that he is good enough to play for Man United and at the top level. He did exceptionally well at Sheffield United, and in the games he's played in, he's made some good saves. It was his ball that led to Luke Shaw scoring the second in the derby, and if you give Henderson game time, he can be England's number one goalkeeper, and I think he should be England's number one keeper, ahead of Pickford, Pope, etc. Because I think he's a better shot stopper and can play out from the back than the current English keepers we've got. But obviously, David De Gea, if this is the end of his time at Man United, then all I can say is, what a servant. A few years ago, he was probably the best keeper in the world, best keeper in the Premier League. But then the past couple of seasons, ever since the 2018 World Cup, he's massively fallen off the handle. He's had shots squirm past him that in the past he would have saved. He's conceded goals that he shouldn't be conceding. Whether or not that's because of the defence around him, I don't know. And he's also led to mistakes like dropping the ball into the net, coming out to diving to just making simple mistakes. But if he does leave, then it will be really sad, because obviously he will be another member of the last Man United team to win the Premier League title gone, and that would leave Phil Jones as the only sole member of the Man United squad that last won a Premier League title, which is astounding, absolutely astounding, really. But to end on a note, David De Gea, thank you for your service. You'll obviously play a couple more games, I think, before the end of the season. But it is an end of an era at Manchester United, so to speak. So, Man United's next game is the first leg of the Europa League quarter-finals against Granada. Now, obviously, Europa League has already shown a shock this season, with Dinamo Zagreb knocking out Spurs. Now, you could argue that Man United are the favourites for the competition. Yes, we could be, but the fact that Arsenal are already in the competition as well is a worry. But also the fact that we aren't good with cup competitions, especially cup semi-finals. And I've also learned from the Europa League that you never underestimate your opponents. Granada aren't half a bad side. They've done well in La Liga this season, and they've got to the Europa League quarter-finals because they do seem to be good enough. The fact that we all thought that Real Sociedad would be a tough side, and they're probably a better side than Granada, and we cruised past them with ease in this competition. But obviously, They have players that have played in the Premier League before, like Chelsea's on-loan winger Kennedy, ex-Spurs striker Roberto Soldado, who I believe is 35 or 36 now, which is a long time since he's played in the Premier League. But I'm not going to underestimate Granada, because you take each game as it comes, and you always respect and never underestimate your opponent, no matter what league they're in. But I will be back with my analysis of the game against Granada. Please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and leave any comments down below if you agree with any of the opinions I've said tonight. And also go and check out Jack's Total Tottenham and Nathan's Scouting Saints series.